It is 40 degrees below zero. A man lies buried in the snow, so still that the drifts have begun to cover him. He does not blink. He does not breathe out, because breath becomes steam, and steam gives away a position. Somewhere across the white tree line, hundreds of Soviet soldiers are searching for one person, just one. They have a name for him, whispered in fear down the Russian lines. They call him the White Death. And in the next 3 months, this small, quiet farmer will become the deadliest sniper the world has ever known. But how did a man who never wanted to be a soldier end up here? His name was Simo Häyhä. He was born in 1905 in Rautjärvi, a tiny farming village in eastern Finland, close to the Russian border. He was not a warrior. He was a farmer and a hunter who stood barely 5 feet tall, soft-spoken, almost shy. As a boy, he hunted moose and fox in the deep Finnish forests, learning to move without sound, to wait without moving, to fire once and not miss. He learned the land the way only someone born into it can. He knew how snow muffles a footstep and how cold light bends across an open field. None of it was training for war. It was just life. But the world Simo lived in was about to change with terrifying speed. To the east, a giant was stirring, and it had decided that Finland should no longer exist as a free country. By the late 1930s, Joseph Stalin's Soviet Union, the largest nation on Earth, had turned its eyes toward its tiny northern neighbor. Finland had fewer than 4 million people. The Soviet Union had over 170 million. On paper, it was not a war. It was an execution. On the 30th of November, 1939, Soviet forces poured across the Finnish border. Stalin expected the whole thing to be over in 2 weeks. His generals predicted a victory parade through Helsinki before the new year. What they got instead was the Winter War, one of the most lopsided and astonishing military upsets of the 20th century. The historian William Trotter, in his book A Frozen Hell, describes how the Finns turned their greatest weakness, the brutal Arctic winter, into their deadliest weapon. The Soviets came with tanks, planes, and overwhelming numbers. The Finns came with skis, white camouflage, and an intimate knowledge of the frozen forests their enemies could barely survive in. And among those Finns, in a stretch of front line near the Kola River, was Simo Häyhä. He carried a Finnish rifle, a variant of the Mosin Nagant, fitted with simple iron sights, not a telescopic scope. He chose iron sights on purpose. A scope can catch the sun and flash, betraying a sniper instantly. A scope also forces the shooter to raise his head. Simo wanted his head low, his profile small, his presence invisible. He wanted to disappear. And disappear he did. According to Tapio Saarelainen, a Finnish military officer who later interviewed Häyhä and wrote his biography, The White Sniper, Simo developed a method of almost supernatural patience. He packed hard snow in front of his firing position so the blast of his rifle would not kick up a telltale cloud. He kept snow in his mouth so that his warm breath would not rise as fog in the freezing air. He layered himself in white, becoming one more shape in an endless field of white. And then he waited, sometimes for hours, sometimes in temperatures so cold that exposed skin froze in minutes. Day after day, Soviet soldiers fell, one by one, from a source they could not locate. The Russians grew desperate. They sent counter-snipers to hunt him. He killed them. They called in artillery strikes on the areas where they believed he was hiding. He survived them. They learned his nickname from their own terror, and it spread through the ranks like a sickness. Belaya Smrt, the White Death. Imagine the fear of it. You cross an open field of snow with your unit. The man beside you drops without a sound. Then another. There is no muzzle flash, no smoke, no figure to shoot back at. There is only the white, and somewhere inside it, a pair of eyes that has already chosen who dies next. Soviet morale on that part of the front collapsed. Soldiers refused to move during daylight. Entire advances stalled because of one man no one could see. Estimates of his total vary, and historians urge caution with exact figures. But Saarelainen's research credits him with around 500 confirmed kills in roughly 100 days. It remains among the highest sniper tallies ever documented. But the White Forest could not protect him forever. On the 6th of March, 1940, near the end of the war, a Soviet soldier fired a single shot that found its mark. The bullet, an explosive round, struck Simo in the lower left jaw. It tore away part of his face. Fellow soldiers who found him said half his head looked as though it had been blown apart. They carried him from the field, certain he would die before nightfall. He was placed among the wounded, unconscious, his face shattered, his life draining into the snow he had used so well. For days he lay in a coma, suspended between living and dying. And here lies the cruelest, strangest twist in his story. Simo Häyhä woke up on the 13th of March, 1940. That was the exact day the Winter War ended. The man who had killed so many to keep his country free opened his eyes to a Finland that had survived, that had stunned the world, that had bloodied the Soviet giant so badly Stalin chose to negotiate rather than press on. Finland lost territory, but it kept its independence, and the White Death had lived to see it. Simo Häyhä never fully healed. The wound left half his face permanently disfigured, requiring years of reconstructive surgery. He never sought fame. While the world built him into a legend, he went back to the only life he had ever truly wanted. He became a successful moose hunter and a breeder of dogs in the quiet Finnish countryside, the same forests where he had learned to move like a ghost. When people asked him, late in his life, how he had become so deadly, how he had achieved the impossible, his answer was almost unbearably simple. "Practice," he said. When they asked if he felt remorse, he reportedly replied that he had only done what he was told to do, as well as he possibly could. The historian Robert Edwards, in his account of the conflict, notes how the Winter War shattered the myth of Soviet invincibility, a myth that would haunt Stalin's planning for years to come. And at the heart of that humiliation was a 5-foot farmer with iron sights and a mouthful of snow. Simo Häyhä died in 2002 at the age of 96 in a war veterans nursing home. The deadliest sniper in recorded history spent his final decades in peace, surrounded by his dogs, far from the frozen tree line. It is 40 degrees below zero. A man lies buried in the snow, unseen, unheard, waiting. The world will never know how many lives turned on his patience, or how a quiet hunter who only ever wanted his forests became the ghost. An entire army learned to fear.